Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Eco El Paso's 13th annual conference. The title of our conference this year again is Sustainability During a Pandemic. And this is again a part of a 2-week speaker series. We will have a variety of people from different industries, nonprofits, companies within the sustainability, clean energy realm. And so today we have another awesome speaker. We have Mr. Joshua Blaine. He is not only a board member for Eco El Paso, he's a voting rights activist and will get you signed up anytime you want to vote. He's also a father, a local, a UTEP grad, and he's also part of Sunrise El Paso. And so today's speaker series was really for Josh to be able to represent Sunrise, the Sunrise movement nationally, and then the local movement, Sunrise El Paso, if you see his t-shirt, to really explain what they're doing, what the issues are, what their opinions are for policy, for events that they may have throughout the year. And I'll really let him get into all that detail. But if you have any questions also, please be sure to go to the Sunrise social media sites. And you can also reach out to Eco El Paso or to Josh anytime if you have any questions. But Josh, thank you again for coming today, and I'll pass it off to you and let you do your thing.
All right, thank you very much, Shelby. So I'm going to do my little PSA right now. And in the midst of the pandemic, it's very important. Get yourself a mask, make sure you're wearing it um, for yourself, for your family, for everybody. We got to contain the spread. And just like everybody else, I'm pretty sure we're going to get back to the way things were. But definitely, we're entering a new realm, a new era for everybody to really consider everything and how we interact and just the way we operate. So I want to thank first and foremost Eco El Paso for having this, despite the current events of a pandemic happening. So we obviously now have the technology. Everyone's pretty versed on virtual meetings and conferences. So we're able to continue these conversations, and as many are working from home and remotely, we're still productive. So with those things in mind, I really look forward to the innovations and just the new thinking that people will approach. And a lot of this really gives an open, opportunity to really kind of plug into that renewable, sustainable element. That people can, they know they can work more efficient. We're not having to drive from location to location. Some things can be done from home. And that work balance really helps out everyone. For America, everyone's known to be working extremely long hours, and we're hard workers. This is a good way to really kind of open that opportunity so we can expand our involvement, and that involvement also includes our community. So I want to give a brief introduction to myself. Shelby gave a really quick one for me. Yes, I am a board member. I guess I'm the baby of the board. So I'm one of the new members. I'm less than a year been on the board. I was approached through a network of friends of the that are board members and other members of the community, and they asked me to join. At that point, I was still basically kicking off what is now Sunrise El Paso, and I'll give you a brief history about that. But as most local leaders in El Paso, and I'm sure around the nation and the world, there are a lot of people who are just have multiple hats. So I'm a graduate of UTEP, as Shelby mentioned. I graduated in 13. That was quite an experience. Went and put myself through college, still with that student loan debt though, but went all the way and achieved my electrical engineering degree. And I had a concentration on semiconductors, which kind of goes hand in hand with the next part that I'm going to say is renewable and sustainable energy systems. So if anybody knows the technology, semiconductors are basically what make photovoltaics possible. So that was my focus, and been chasing it ever since. And it's really hard to stay focused on that kind of realm when you're being really just tempted by the dollars that oil and gas give. And unfortunately, I fell into some of those positions working for those. Got to know the process on an intimate level, what was going right, what was going wrong, and the real truth about it. And I just couldn't stand to be involved with it anymore. It's hard in this capitalistic system to not be wooed by the dollars that are flashed in front of you to kind of push aside your morals or your ethics. But I made the conscious decision to stand firm on that and being in this community and actually seeing the realities that which we've all accepted in El Paso, the pollution, the refinery and all these other elements that we can actually do something about. So it's been my goal from then on to do something about it. And it was not as easy as I thought it would be. You know, just kind of learning where you can fit in and where you can actually make an impact. It led me into community organizing. And a lot of the things I had recognized even before 2016, well before, is I understood and then also a great opportunity and slot provided by Eco Paso to be speaking the day before the election. November 3rd will be a historical election. It will change the face of how we go forward. No matter what side or partisan platform you're in favor of, the decisions of our politicians have always kind of paved the way for our future. And that kind of ties into what I'm going to link in with here with Sunrise. Also, I became a VDR, which empowered me to learn more about the voter rights laws and just the process and how it goes down. I'm also an election judge. I've been working election judge for almost 2 years, from the midterm up till even this election. Tomorrow, I'll be working at an election poll, because that's the only way we're going to really empower those famous words of "we the people," is if we the people aren't part of the process. And I know it's not particularly Eco the Paso's stance on politics and stuff like that, but ultimately policy dictates how we go forward. If we don't have these incentives that are going to end at the end of this year for encouraging, incentivizing solar installations and just the building of that solar infrastructure, then those sort of things don't happen. We understand, and I'm sure many people agree, that regulations shouldn't be lessened, they should be increased, but they should also be conscious in what they're trying to promote. And we want to promote that renewable, sustainable energy future. So subsidies that go to fossil fuel industries and building of new pipelines and all these other small details particularly aren't the best path forward. Do we need them to sustain our economy? Yes, because we have expectations as Americans. We're energy hungry, but we need to start to really put it in perspective of the cost of that energy and the outcome. And ultimately, right now, with the prevalence of oil and gas industry, we're seeing the outcome just making a very detrimental impact on our environment. It may not be as obvious as it is here, but we've seen it all throughout the nation. The fires happening in California. We've seen a very frightening hurricane season where the Gulf Coast is getting pounded with tropical storms and hurricanes. So this is just a start. And I'll go in more detail about that again in my presentation. So I want to thank Eco Paso. Thank Shelby for having me here. I think this is a great opportunity. And I think Shelby's got some words we're going to share right now, and then we'll get started with the presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've admitted a few more people. We want to make this interactive, but throw your questions in, text them, or you can wait towards the end. But I'm sure Josh will cover quite a few different topics. But I'll let you take it.
All right. Yeah, my plan is to kind of power through some of this. It's so much to talk about, so little time. And I'm considering this like a micro TED Talk for myself. I would love to go in more detail about these. As being a community leader, I'm also a sitting committee member for REACT, and that's with the City of El Paso. And REACT is the Regional Renewable Energy Advisory Council for the City of El Paso. So that was kind of my first entrance in there, to really kind of stepping up, not just from community organizing, but into getting in, hopefully influencing policy in the positive manner for renewable, sustainable. So kind of quick nutshell, I encourage everybody find me on social media, LinkedIn, find Sunrise El Paso on all those social media platforms. You'll see that information come up here very quickly. But I want to have this conversation, and this is a great opportunity. Personally, when I became first a graduate, I had taken notice of Eco El Paso, and I was like, that's where I want to go. And it had been a time to kind of as everybody else, they have doubts, getting yourself to that worthy point of doing it. And you'd ultimately just have to take the plunge, just dive right into it. You're going to make mistakes, but you're going to meet people who are going to be excited, and they're going to encourage you to go forward. And I have met many people in the environmental realm, as well as the political realm, who have encouraged me to get to this point. And for me, I'm not done yet. So as many people who are waking up and realizing through the news, we're going to need more and more people to join this, because it's going to require this movement, which I'm going to talk about here shortly. So we'll get started here. clicking on the share screen. So there we go. Okay, so here is introduction to Sunrise El Paso here at the Eco El Paso 13th Annual Conference on November 2nd, 2020. And what a year 2020 has been. So on the bottom of the screen, you'll see our basic information. We got our phone number, email, website, and our link tree. All those are very great ways to connect with us. You can get a good taste of what we're trying to do. Sunrise El Paso is exactly what it says on the screen, is a sunrise movement hub in El Paso, Texas. So we'll start with the national movement, which is Sunrise Movement National. So Sunrise Movement, if you see this logo, obviously we have our nice little one in the corner. Get that corner. That's our localized emblem, you know, relative to El Paso. But the one you're seeing right dead center in the screen, if I can get the camera to really help me there, is the National Sunrise logo. So if you see that or you've seen that in the news, that's what you're seeing. That's the Sunrise Movement. And National, Sunrise Movement National is We Are the Climate Revolution. So Sunrise Movement started off pretty early before the 2016 election. And we had seen you know, a lot of hope was put into the previous administration, you know, the Obama administration, on their drive towards renewable and sustainable. A lot of the incentives that we're seeing now for solar are because of that administration. And it was a good start. But same for me, I took the opinion that there are enough people in the world that care. So I figured if I'm just supportive enough, it'll happen. So that didn't seem to be the outcome. We saw time and time again where just policy, legislation, and our elected officials kind of fell short. And from then till now, they fell shorter less than we are now. We've seen, you know, almost tripling rollbacks of EPA regulations, and we're seeing issues and disasters occur because of it. So it's something that we need to really everyone needs to get involved and stand in and going forward. So Sunrise Movement, like I said before, as we are the climate revolution. And in these days of virtual conferencing and technology, we have a video right here. If this user is the thumbnail, if you find that on YouTube, you can look at it. I'll just probably have it play in the background. As always, there's always some sort of technical details that go wrong. So I'm not going to get audio on this one, but we'll let the video play. So this video basically gives you a nice summary of what Sunrise Movement is about and how they started in the lead up to the 2016 election. And then the result of the 2016 election had an impact on many people. Some people were satisfied, some people were dissatisfied. It struck fear in people's heart, and for some people it was a hope. But it definitely wasn't a change to hope for many environmentalists and people concerned about the climate change and the crisis that is coming in as a result of it. And in 2016, 2017, you know, climate scientists and professionals, experts had projected that we had 12 years to make a change. So that was then. This is now. This is 2020. So starting yesterday, at the beginning of the year, the minute the clock struck into 2020, with all the insanity that's been happening and interesting events that have been occurring, that clock started to tick. So that clock started to tick in a way that we need to push ourselves. And many people will interpret that as radicalism or something like that. But it must have been really radical when they saw the first Model T or automobile, you know, driving alongside the buggy of horses. So it was a shock. A lot of people don't transition to change very well. But this is a change that's going to impact us all. You can see right there the images of what's happening with climate change currently. You have coastlines rising, you're seeing more rapid floods. And luckily, here in El Paso, we don't have to deal with some of those threats. Yeah, but we did experience probably one of the hottest years, recent years on record. 1994 still takes the cake, but we saw more hotter days than the year before and more hotter days than the year before. And for me, ultimately, I'm sure we all felt in our pocketbook. Energy was not cheap. Everyone had their ACs on, and it's just the heat is the biggest threat here. But not to be all pessimistic, we do have one of the most abundant resources that we could possibly ask for, and that is the sun. We'll get into that detail later. Let's continue speaking about Sunrise National. Okay, so who is or what is Sunrise Movement? So who we are. Sunrise is a youth movement to stop climate change and create millions of good jobs in the process. We're building an army of young people to make climate change an urgent priority across America, and the corrupting influence of fossil fuel executives on our politics, and elect leaders who stand up for the health and well-being of all people. So Sunrise National ended up becoming, when it first started, was just how can we make a change? It was, to demand that our politicians listen to us, and trying to exhibit that pressure. A lot of the efforts that were taken by Sunrise National when they first started were through strikes and demonstrations and protests, and they're still happening now. So that's a quick snapshot of what we got there. And then if, like everybody, Wikipedia is usually your go-to for fun facts and quick information. Here's some snippets of what Sunrise Movement is. So, Sunrise Movement is an American youth-led political movement coordinated by Sunrise, which is Sunrise National, the movement, and is a 501c4 political action organization that advocates political action on climate change. And like I said, Eco Paso, not too in a sway to go for political involvement and that sort of mention, but like I said, we do understand that policy, and the policies laid out by our elected officials help pave that way so we can achieve that future that we all want, where we're sustainable, where we have renewable energy, and we actually ultimately have cleaner energy. So like I said, started April 2017. That was officially founded. Started in DC, and it's just grown exponentially around the country. And now we have a hub here. So I'll go over National's campaign. Here's a brief overview of their campaign. Current campaigns they're organizing, like I said, perfect opportunity right before the election. They've been doing this from midterm, primary, and onward, is to organize, vote, and strike. So we want to organize the youth. Like I said, we're a youth-centric movement, and that includes people from, we would love to get them as young as middle school, and particularly pitted towards the high school and young college age students, and show them, how coming together in a community of youth and having those, because we do mostly share very similar outlooks on just the world with climate and all these other issues. So it's learning to form that sense of community, building those relationships, and then also, in a sense, teaching and organizing to get to those points that we want to get to. Another one of their campaign is We Are Wide Awake, is bringing the youth out and them willingly volunteering, going out and doing these protests, standing out and waking up senators, congressmen, congresswomen, elected officials, and making the noise that needs to be made, because we can no longer be ignored. And furthermore, campaigns are the Sunrise School. So no one's born knowing what to do or how to do it. I didn't know as well, and I learned through collaboration with colleagues and like-minded people. So Sunrise offers like trainings and other things that just the youth may not have access to, that obviously professionals would have through experience. But giving them that initial experience to spark their energy and get them in the know of how they can make the impact. And they host these, now it's virtual, and before it was virtual, but now it's all virtual. And just having these sessions where youth can come in and learn about how we can strike effectively, how we can protest non-violently. And that's a key thing I want to emphasize here. It's a non-violent movement. This is all about applying the pressure to the politicians to get them to understand that, the youth are a threat when they come to vote. And you're seeing that now in the early voting numbers. You're seeing youth turnout in record numbers. We won't know until the whole election's over. We get those final numbers and all those demographics and analytics are broken down. But because of the youth and because just the general interest of voters coming out to the polls, that change can be made through the polls, and is ultimately frightening to some politicians. And lastly, in the summary, we'll have the Victory Squad. The Victory Squad has been working since the primary. They had endorsed, progressive candidates that were in favor of the Green New Deal and other candidates that were allies in this fight. So the Victory Squad has been working since then and on forward, and has been really pressuring both main political presidential candidates to have some push on it. Obviously, based on their platforms, one is definitely offered up a starting point, but that's even not a satisfactory point for the movement. So it's going to be continual pushing, because if we don't push them, then they're just going to say they're just going to give us lip service and then say one thing, and then when they're on the floor, they'll vote another way. So not to take up too much time, and there's a lot to talk about Sunrise National. You can learn more by going to the sunrisemovement.org website. There's a lot of ways to engage in there. They have videos, they have YouTube. If you're interested, or a youth that is family member, son, daughter, nephew, niece, or even yourself, go to there and find some information. We really want to see more of these hubs pop up. El Paso we're lucky enough that we had a bunch of motivated individuals to start a hub here. We would like to see a hub in Las Cruces. We understand here in the borderland that relationship exists. So if you're watching this and you're abroad across the nation or elsewhere, and you find that there is no hub around where you are, maybe take that step and take that plunge and start one, or find like-minded individuals and share this movement. Because once I had found out about it, it was everything I was looking for. And once I found the people that were already rallied within it, you can take that action and start gaining that momentum.
That's actually a really good point. If there is anyone in Las Cruces that does want to start that, it is a college town, so it is the exact demographic that you want. And honestly, this is exactly why El Paso wanted to partner with Sunrise Movement. It's because I think we're targeting more professional engineers and architects and continuing education, and have wanted the youth side. And I think that's a great partnership that you guys bring, and the fact that you straddle both lines, on our board as well as part of the movement. So yeah, I think this is an awesome tie-in. I'm glad that you guys were able to get so big locally in El Paso so quickly.
Yeah, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do, and I'll go in more detail about Sunrise El Paso and how it came to be. But yeah, exactly, perfect point. Good segue, Shelby. Yes, like I mentioned before, I'm an electrical engineer. Let me know how many electrical engineers are interested in environmental issues up front, at the risk of their career. I decided to say, the hell with the path I took, and to go forward on this. What it seems unpioneered. It really isn't. I know there are professionals out there, and I would love to connect and network with all those professionals, because it's a learning experience from your experience. But at the same time, we can utilize each other. Sunrise El Paso is youth led, but in that premise, the youth are up and coming leaders. So they're going to have to acquire the experience and knowledge, and that's what Sunrise is about to do, is to allow them and to support them to get to that point. But we need the expertise of people who have been in this fight for a long time, whether it be a lawyer or active veteran environmentalists, or people within industry that can provide those insights that helps equip the movement, and allows us to be just more aggressive, and really pushing what we demand. And like I can't emphasize this enough, this is a really good opportunity to be right before election day. But the best way we can make change is to vote. So I want to encourage everybody to go out and vote. I really don't care as your political affiliation, but go out there and participate. This democracy depends on the people to participate, and us as a people, we are the democracy. So go out there and vote. And especially in the state of Texas, I can't encourage it or say it enough, but vote often. It's very important. And remember to vote for action. So we'll transition now to, we'll enter Sunrise El Paso. So a brief history about Sunrise El Paso. We're still really young. It's been a little over a year since we started. Our first action was a climate strike on September 20th, 2019. And I had met, literally, as most things happened in America. America was founded by people meeting in a pub, but that's exactly what happened. I met with some youth. This was during the daytime. They served lunch. We all had lunch and coffee. Started bouncing off ideas, and we started organizing. It started off with 4 people, and grew to 7, then grew to 12, and grew to 22, and it's grown, and people have come and left, because that's kind of our organization that we have here is, it's all volunteer led. That it's it's essentially a nonprofit, so no one's really getting paid. We're all sacrificing our own time, money, and resources to do this. But it's been really impressive what we've been able to do without those big things that a lot of other organizations depend on. It's a lot of man hours, it's a lot of smart, efficient thinking, and with the use of social media and the technology at our disposal, we've been able to make, as Shelby said, the impact and making the awareness that we've been able to do. So just like I did with National, I want to give a brief of who we are. We are a localized hub here in El Paso. So we fly the flag of Sunrise, the national banner, but ultimately we're unique. We're unique to this region. We know that some of the issues that are happening in the Gulf aren't the same issues that we find here. But we do understand that what happens in the Gulf, the activity with drilling and the transport of, say, in the case of fossil fuel, um, you know, coal or gas or natural gas, those things flow through here. And ultimately, we'll talk more about that and how it's used. But who we are, Sunrise El Paso, is a local movement to stop climate change and create hundreds, if not thousands, of good jobs in the process here in the desert Southwest and El Paso, Texas. We're building an army of young people to make climate change an urgent priority across America and here in El Paso by ending the corrupting influence of fossil fuel executives on our politics and elect leaders who stand up for the health and well-being of all people, regardless of class, race, or economic status. We are fighting for basic rights for all humans that they deserve, and that it includes clean air, clean water, and energy, as well as corresponding social economic issues our region faces. We are ordinary young people who are scared about what the climate crisis means for the people in the region we love. We are gathering in classrooms, living rooms, libraries, local businesses, and worship halls across the city region. Everyone has a role to play. Public opinion is already with us. If we unite by the thousands into the millions, we can turn this into political power and reclaim our democracy. We're not looking to the right or the left. We are looking forward. Together, we can change this country and this world, and as sure as the sun rises each morning. And that's a great thing about Sunrise. The fact that it has the title of Sunrise and we are the Sun City, it's really easy for residents of the city to connect that. So we want to really emphasize the like I was saying before, the resource we have such abundant, which is the sunshine. So here's a quick snapshot of our website. Nothing too fancy, but we got some information on there. Here's some of the brief summary of the campaigns that we've undergone so far. We've resisted IFF in an attempt to try to stop the sale of El Paso Electric to IIF under, what has now been released and known commonly is owned by JP Morgan Chase. And we've also fought for clean air. We've been present at TECQ meetings where Marathon Oil has been retroactively trying to get permissions on their permits to pollute more in our community. And lastly, the most recent one is to reject Newman 6, and I'll go in detail about all these a little more later. So let's start with the El Paso Electric sale. In June of 2008, June 3rd actually, El Paso Electric sent a mailer to all customers saying that they were in talks of selling themselves to basically the highest bidder. So that had happened, and we had got wind of it, and this was soon after our climate strike in September, and we had just barely missed the deadline to intervene. But fast forward to today, roughly around the end of June 2020, Paso Electric closed its acquisition dealings with IIF. IIF is an acronym for Infrastructure Investments Fund, which is managed and operated by JP Morgan Chase. And you can subscribe to their rhetoric and how they try to spin it. But ultimately, it is an outside entity that just scooped up El Paso Electric, and with very shallow promises of keeping it local, which I'll go in more detail. But is ultimately not a good move for El Paso, as we've seen as other cities and other regions around the country, that energy independence is true independence. So we're tied now to a larger system that essentially extracts the profits out of El Paso and takes them elsewhere. So El Paso Electric was removed from public sharing, and the public shareholders at that time got what it says right there, $68.25 in cash per share. And now EPE, which is El Paso Electric, is now backed by that private investment firm of IIF. And in the agreement of the sale and IIF, there were some commitments that were made. And those commitments were the local workforce, local workforce retention and development opportunities, local leadership, and the headquarters would remain here. Electrical credits for customers, and that amounted to like $11 over a whole year. So you can thank El Paso Electric for buying you a cup of coffee every year, which is I don't see how that is beneficial to anybody, considering, like I said, the energy rates that we all paid this summer just to keep ourselves cool. And that they were going to participate in an economic sustainability fund. And this particular item was their counter to what we had demanded when we went in and to talk to city council, and everything that we had done was to make sure that we did a feasibility study. And we got the argument of throwing out it would cost too much, it would take too long. But in actuality, this would be a phased sort of research opportunity, and we can identify things, and a lot of things, it wasn't going to be a flip of a switch, right? Everyone knows nothing happens on that turn of a dime that fast, but it was going to be a process. And the more we learned, the more we would probably make better decisions going forward. And this could translate to all departments within the city, and also maybe possibly local policy, and hopefully with some encouragement on the federal level from our elected congresspersons and senators.
Well, one thing you mentioned there that I won't harp on too much, but not only are they a monopoly, but we do have some of the highest electricity rates in the state of Texas and some of the highest property taxes in the state of Texas. So the two combined sort of make this even more egregious, along with IIF, not naming themselves properly.
Yeah, so that's absolutely true. And we saw last year, this year, the triple digits just kept going up. The numbers are keep climbing, and it's pretty. I mean, right now we're enjoying some good weather today, but last week we had some 90-degree temperatures, and then we had a quick cold snap. So yeah, we know weather can be unpredictable, and it's a system of its own. But some predictability allows for sustainability, especially in people's pocketbooks. I could go on for years about this. This was over a year fight, it seemed. I don't know. It was a lot of man hours, a lot of volunteer time. There's some information there from an article that was recently released not too long ago about IIF. But we really we did our research, we did our best, and we ultimately educated the public on it. If you have a chance, go ahead and quick read through this. And here's a little snapshot of our social media post. And then Paso Electric had community meetings that they had hosted, that they had control over. And we figured that would be a good time to voice exactly what we were saying at city council, really try to let the public know what we were trying to say. They unfortunately really controlled the process in silence. So we decided to counter their community meetings with their own. And they were very successful. You can see the dates in which they occurred. It was really early in the year. And we educated a lot of people in the public, and a lot of people were really in shock from what they learned from us versus what the PR team from El Paso Electric was saying. And this leads into our next segment, which is the next big fight. We seem to be always on the reactionary end of these battles. This one in particular, this issue was brought up, presented before REACT in November, I believe, and it was right there and at the planning phase. REACT had always known, and the general public, if you were paying attention in that realm, knew that there was going to be a demand spike in 2023. So El Paso Electric was equipping to meet that demand, and this is their response. So here's our latest campaign, which is the Reject Newman 6 campaign. We have some very talented volunteers who help us with the graphic art. So I want to take a moment to encourage anybody who would like to lend their efforts, whether it be graphic design, videography, or any of those artsy skills. We would love to have you on, because the best way to convey messages is through art. And we'll continue with talking about Newman 6. And we organized everything we learned from the Paso Electric sale. We knew what worked, what didn't work. So we wanted to, come back and be more refined. So we held a march on September 21st. We spoke in March. We have video of it. We got it on YouTube. And then we've turn to engage in the community. So here's some scenes from that. This is all youth, and you see some, more older people, but these are people that are generally concerned about this, and they are energized to see the youth come out, and they want to stand by the youth. And collective show of people together is a great show of strength. So this was downtown El Paso. This is us in front of the Paso Electric building. This is us marching. These are screenshots from the video. Some, people offered up video when they were there. You can see the back of my head right there with the blue thing there. That was me. I was probably live streaming that at the time. And then here's some more scenes. We had to do a little, we're trying to be as COVID safe as it is, but it's so nice to meet your friends in this battle. So we did the best we could in social distancing. But what's a moment to commemorate without a group picture? We even got animals involved here. So those are some scenes, and then we got some coverage locally. Telemundo 48 covered us. We got coverage on KTSM, not only on their live broadcast, but on their website. And then we also got a publication in the El Paso Times that highlighted that, El Paso Las Cruces and environmentalists came together to oppose this project. We've been working really heavily. We would love to have a bigger presence in Las Cruces, some more support coming out of there, possibly even develop a hub there. But a lot of the support we've been getting from the New Mexican side is from their Chaparral. And Chaparral, because they're right on, literally, within a good distance of that facility that's being built, that they've been really instrumental in really pushing that this is an impact that it has on a local community. And although they are in New Mexico, it also affects the residents around that area in the El Paso side, but it's a general region. The pollution just doesn't stay on their property, and these issues just don't stay behind a fence. They pour over and they expose a lot of people. So you can watch the demonstration and march on our YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search Sunrise El Paso. And so let's go back into the Newman 6 on details. Here's an overview. And there's right there, if you see on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see the encircled there, the little location of where Newman 6 will be. You can see it's right there on the border, a state line between Texas and New Mexico, and Chaparral is, maybe a finger's width away on the other side in New Mexico. And then maybe a little bit further down, about finger's width from there, on where that circle is, lower to the south, there are homes there in Northeast El Paso, and they're nice homes, and there are families there. And we've seen the exponential growth of El Paso. It's only a matter of time before we're rubbing up against that plant. And we've already seen how Marathon Oil is dead hard in the middle of the city, including the residents that are literally a stone throws away. We would not want to see that continued development and circle around that plant. And on the right side, you can see a Google Maps view type picture of the facility. Currently, they have 5 natural gas fire plants that are there. And we'll go into that in a little more detail, but you can see those arrays down there in the bottom right corner, and that's their solar farms there. Looks pretty good, but it's a start, and I'm not satisfied with that, and we can do more, and we definitely have that potential to maximize. So I want to talk about the Permian Basin and how this all connects. Like I was saying before, that we're not only just a city, we're a region, and we sit in this region of the Permian Basin. Permian Basin is the largest producing region of extracted shale oil and gas in the United States and in the world. El Paso's right now number 2 in some things that we would probably not want to be known for. But we are also involved in this whole relationship with the Permian Basin. Permian Basin is a large source of methane emissions from field extraction sites. And despite COVID caused oil price drop, production is poised to increase and as much as double by 2030. Which, as much as everyone likes to hear the money that'll be flowing in and the that sort of economic benefit, that also means that pollution will double and the impact on our environment will more than double. So post 2015, crude oil exports were permitted, and that's how the Permian approached its full production. So how does that relate to El Paso? Let's get some basic fun facts about El Paso. El Paso is one of the 10th sunniest cities in the world. With that, like I was saying, solar energy is a huge potential here. And right now, we're only utilizing 3% of that locally from our local utility, which is as Shelby had mentioned, and many people don't know, and if you don't know, now you know that it is a monopoly. And the largest source of energy generation from Paso Electric is through gas fire power generation plant. And that gas fire is natural gas. And natural gas is, although it is a nice PR term and coin, it is not natural. We have to drill in and extract it, refine it, and then use it to produce energy. And within that, if we know of anything, there are minerals that are locked up in the earth that we need. And then there are also other minerals and gases and byproducts that when you crack open the earth, you release them, and we can't capture them all, or at least we don't have the technology to do that yet. But those sort of things can, they're an impact. A lot of these volatile gases released are not visible to the naked eye. And unfortunately, as humans, don't have that kind of vision. But with technology, we can see those emissions. Like I was saying, they mentioned there about the peak demand in 2023. That's the whole reason why this plant is being built. Is it the best offering that Paso Electric could do? No. We want to see them offer more solar, and not just a little bit. We want to see a significant increase in solar. So that's the reason why we're fighting this. And to get more information about this plant, it's going to be installed and constructed for the 228 megawatt methane gas fire plant. We would like to see a comparison or an equivalent replace methane gas altogether as an energy generation source and use solar, and maybe include some wind. We know that wind isn't viable here in the city limits, but like I said, we're a region. This is the Permian Basin. Everyone's driven out into West Texas and seen the wind farms. Those things can be encouraged. And those sort of approaches or diversification, just like you would your stock portfolio, you want to diversify your energy portfolio because anything can happen. It's 2020. I'm expecting Godzilla. Why not? But let's diversify our energy production so that we can meet the needs, but also at the same time reconsidering the waste that we produce. And so the recent increase of emissions by carbon dioxide would be from this new plant up to 1.3 million tons per year, which is 17 times higher than EPA standards. And we recommend CO2 should not, and they recommend that CO2 should not exceed 75,000 tons per year. So looking at those numbers, that should be a shock. That quantifier there of 17, it shouldn't even be 1. We should be looking towards the minimal amounts of emissions as possible. And then lastly, it'll increase the local water demand. Paso Electric will throw out that, oh, well, this is replacing old, basically equipment, and that it would be more efficient. That's nice and dandy. But water is our most valuable resource here in the desert Southwest, and we need to make sure we use it wisely. And we need to make sure that we're returning water through cleaning it, racking the aquifer, not producing wasted, uses of the water. And with solar, you really don't need much water to keep a continuous process going. Whereas the methane gas fire, it's necessary. So
well, they're using, I have the exact number that I'll have to post later, but it's well over, billions of gallons of water per year to run all the natural gas power plants. When you're talking about gallons of, distilled water to clean the panels once a year, maybe. So it's not just a little bit of water. I hope that if anyone takes anything away from that, it is astronomical amounts of water in the desert.
Yeah, and I wish I had more time to speak about this in depth and go and have graphics and all these nice things. We'll be working on that shortly. Hopefully we can get some nice more presentation here of data. But yeah, Shelby's absolutely right. Is astronomical amount of water. For years we've heard the campaign, no migas mi agua, become more efficient with our water usage. Lawn culture should not exist here in the desert. People have landscaped to reflect desert vegetation that are more drought resistant. And even like Eco El Paso's campaign for Million Trees El Paso, bringing in more trees will, reduce the urban heat island effect that we have, bring temperatures down, localized in neighborhoods, and ultimately, continue what is absolutely necessary is the increase of vegetation so we can have cleaner air. But it's still no excuse to excessively pollute and to do these irresponsible actions for the short-term profit. And that's an excellent point. And I would love to expand on that wholly. So we'll be having this talk more.
Yeah.
But there's some information so you can jump on and get to know more about the campaign that we're going here. But in the sake of time, I want to move on to the next one. So this is where we're gonna open up a little more. We'll have a little more dialogue between me and Shelby. And everyone knows climate change, the term, right? And climate change equals a climate crisis. Like I said, climate change was, the projection of what was going to come in 2020 to 2030. We're sitting in it right now. All the effects you've seen from weather, it's happening now. It may seem like a slow startup or it may be negligible, but I really don't want to be here in 2030 saying, I told you so. This is not one of those moments. This is a moment where we need to come together to fight this on all levels. There's many ways you can get involved. Um, you know, from the simplest things. You could start off by, recycling more, even though we know our recycling program here isn't too fantastic, but it's a start. Maybe we need to push on that. Maybe you need to consider your water usage. Maybe you need to consider probably not consuming so much meat. Maybe veganism is something that you can take on. Everyone seems to be in, fire about the keto diet. Why not try veganism? Other little things. Everything you can do, gardening at home, retrofitting your home with energy saving windows, getting rooftop solar. All these, there's many different ways to do it, but if you're positively thinking in that direction is a good start. And collectively, as a people, as a community, if we were to do this, we can start to see those things and we can start seeing the benefits. The more of those benefits that are presented, then it's more of a convincing argument to continue to go forward and going forward. So I want to leave it open to Shelby so he can either quiz me here or we can expand this topic.
Yeah, yeah. Is that the end of the presentation form?
It's towards the end.
Okay.
It's not an information intense like I had before, but I wanted to make it interesting for people to kind of hear more rather than just me going on forever.
Yeah. No, sure. I mean, so there's a couple things to go back to your Newman 6 plant. And really, this just goes for a lot of utilities, but specifically our utility. Yes, it is an atrocity to the climate, but financially, what these utilities are really trying to do, because what they could do is go in and put in 500 megawatts of solar, 500 additional megawatts of battery, sensors all over the city. They should pay for the smart meters and put them on our houses. You want to charge us extra for every little thing. And I think what the real key factor is, what they want to do as a business model is build as many power plants as they can, because what they're going to get through the Public Utility Commission of Texas, the PUC, PUCT, what the PUC is going to do is they're going to give them a minimum of a guaranteed 10% profit every year for 50 years, no matter what, whether they turn the power plant on, whether they lose money, whether they make money, no matter what. They now get to strap that added cost, no matter what, to all the ratepayers. And what do they get? They get a 50-year asset, whether they turn it on or not, that they're going to bill you for. So what do they want to do? They want to build as many power plants as possible to cover peak, right? And I get that because coming from Austin and San Antonio, where I'd lived for decades and living out here for the last 7 years, yes, peak is a bigger deal, probably peak summer, peak winter for heating and cooling. But you can create incentive programs for windows and doors and spray foam insulation and solar hot water heating, solar pool heating, all the other amenities that are more of a luxury. But what you could do is cut off peak demand and put in giant battery banks that kick in like a power plant to basically cut the peak load, right? And so you round the load, which rounds the amount of energy that's needed, which then lowers the average cost. But they want to build power plants because then they get their minimum mandatory profit every year for 50 years, even if it sits there. So if they build 5 or 10 new more under the guise of peak demand and they need to be able to satisfy customers middle of the summer, well, it's not the only way to do things. It's not only the only way to do things, but it's being done all over the state of Texas. And there's proof, and it's being done all over the country and all over the world. So it's not like something they need to even go study, right? And not only that, they're doing it. They just need to up the volume, and they need to work with us, and they need to get rid of the $30 minimum bill, which they charge any homeowner. So now if you go solar and you have a $500 bill, well, yes, it's nice to get it down to 30, but if you get it down to zero, they basically take $30 out of your pocket and they say, thank you, $30 no matter what. And so there's a couple of big issues, right? They're promoting for solar and storage for themselves, but not anyone else. They're putting a $30 tax and a roadblock to knock off the amount of solar you should put on your roof so they can monopolize the power. And then they want to, instead of doing all that to reduce peak demand, they want to build all these power plants that are massively horrible to the climate, but then they're going to charge you for them for 50 years. This isn't our lifetime. This is our kids, our grandkids. And if they keep doing that, I mean, they're really, and then they take all the profits and export it to JP Morgan in New York. So it's not even being spent locally, right? And that's a whole other different thing. But there's a variety of issues. That it's an atrocity to the climate, but they are financially trying to really stick it to the ratepayers, which is what bothers me the most. Because the climate side, I think we can take care of that quickly with common sense, but really trying to make money off the same rate base every year and just add more and more cost and have the highest property taxes and the highest electricity costs in Texas. When you just add it all up, it's mind boggling. It's not for the people anymore. It's on the people, it's pressed down and oppressing the people. And that's really bothersome.
Yeah, and we know that not only does the power of the people come at the ballot box with voting, but it's also with their pocketbook. So, and that's like I was saying about getting involved in the climate action. Be more conscious about what you're buying and who you're supporting. And I understand the advertising methods are just they're good. You know, they know how to tap into the psyche of the individual. But at the same time, you have to be aware when know when you're being played. And like you were saying right there with the energy and the fee, like I know a lot of people who have gone and got rooftop solar, and in a sense, they're burned by exactly what you said. They're like, where is this benefit? And a lot of that can be dealt with, and we're like I said, we're in the midst of the election. We'll have the Texas legislature coming into session early next year. There are laws that we could push the representatives on to allow some of these things to just not happen, where you can't profit off of rooftop solar. Already, people are hardworking to own their property and their homes, and if people who have the opportunity to invest in rooftop solar, that should be yours. All that energy should be yours for your benefit, and not having to pay any extra fees or anything like that. And then being able to store it. And I think the bigger part of that, maybe a lot of people will probably nitpick at what I'm saying is, well, you're going to kill the oil gas industry. Everyone's seeing the ads on TV. I mean,
We can transition them to geothermal drilling,
yeah.
solar sales and installation and engineering. Whether you're in the office selling, you're in the field, or you're a designer. I've had friends that started designing 10 panel systems and now they're doing 50 megawatt systems worldwide, right? So it's an awesome career path. And you can literally take all the drillers from around the world and they can create geothermal drilling and use those exact equipment and their exact skill set, and then expand geothermal renewable energy across the world. So it's a farce. It's some of the fastest growing jobs in the country. Solar and wind technicians are the top two fastest jobs that the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics show as the fastest growing jobs, and they will be for the next 10 years. So, and I hope geothermal hits there soon, because that's how we really replace all the drillers right into geothermal, which hasn't quite taken off like solar and batteries, but it will. And then lastly, before I get off my high horse with solar, is that every home with solar, and then every home with batteries, and then every home with an electric vehicle is now a micro battery for the utility. So if they partnered with us, if there was an issue, every home with solar and batteries and electric vehicles could use that stored technology to help stabilize the grid, so we don't have a blackout, so we don't have these peak demands where it bursts, a power plant or transformers or whatever, right? And we can't handle it. There's a lot of opportunity to partner, but then you have to partner with homeowners, not tax them. And that's key. And again, that can avoid more power plants being built altogether, which is what I think. It's not only do we not want Newman 6 and methane and natural gas, but we don't want it at all. We don't want any power plants. We want solar, geothermal, wind, storage. I think it's a full replacement, right?
Yeah, and I know there's an argument like it is going to be a big change, but it's from the ways where we demand it most, and like we said, energy generation. But you're still going to have the existence of gas motors, stuff like that, because there's just going to be means where you can't do anything without it, but it's not going to be on the scale that we see, where huge plant,
Yep.
huge engine, and you're going to need some of that stuff, but then that's going to be like a transitional phase of technology. As an electrical engineer, you can, yeah, everyone totally can acclaim to the torque potential of diesel and combustion engines. But there's also benefits to using electric motors, and it's a lot cheaper to service, a lot cheaper to manufacture, to service than say a combustion engine, and then the applications become more expansive. I mean, how many times do you see electric motors used in just your car or in toys? Or, these are little things that where those uses of those applications can be replaced, these big depleting systems with a more manageable and I mean, from an engineering perspective, you can just do a little bit more with a lot bit more with electric motors versus anything else.
Yeah,
So
it's just easier to build, easier to deploy solar. It's quicker to turn on. And we've already got 15 to 20,000 homes in the EPE territory in Texas and New Mexico that could already act like mini batteries, right? For the utility, for the people, right? To keep the grid going. So I really think it's more symbiotic than it's them versus us. I feel like hopefully we can get together with them and get rid of that $30 bill and promote more solar to where that cuts down the peak demand to where they don't even need the power plants. And you know what? If they build them, let's just make sure they don't turn them on.
yeah, and I mean, I understand having a backup plan, and if you're looking at it from an engineering perspective, like you got to have a backup plan,
Yeah,
contingency.
of course. Yeah,
But
we're
if they
not saying
never turned it on, but we know it works, that's
we
great.
have enough. We have enough to stabilize the grid for peak demand if we added more. If we continued at this point to not add anything new except for solar and battery, the existing infrastructure could handle the peak because we have a lot of power plants that could all be on to handle things if it really came down to it. So
Yeah, and there've been initiatives. I mean, to give some credit to El Paso Electric, they've been trying to do the community solar thing, and now they're trying
they
to
are doing
towards
good stuff.
corporate. So that's good. I think that needs to be elevated and needs to be expanded because how many large industrial facilities do we have, especially over here on the Far East side, that are like warehouse type? Imagine covering all of those rooftops with solar. And then the same thing that we're trying to work on reacting to, well, right now we're in a pandemic, kind of hard, cash is strapped, but going forward, like we want to push that the city do the exact thing because that mitigates the cost that the city has to spend O&M on their facilities. And then that savings comes right back to the taxpayers. And like you're saying about the increase of taxes, like that is something I haven't heard many candidates running for local office even speak about. And the main the head runners of those races that are up for vote right now, they're silent, and you have very few candidates that are speaking about that directly. And it's a transition where we're seeing interest rise, but we want to maximize the interest as fast as possible. El Paso is always on the lower end of the bell curve as far as those sort of like innovation changes or whatever. But with what we're saying about solar, like there is no reason why we can't tap in that potential, and that would be benefit to everybody. That's jobs, that's training, that's higher paying. Yeah, we're gonna have Amazon come in, that's great. But what about the other end of it? And we can get all these people, to have those higher paying jobs that they want, but we can support those buildings and that downtown revitalization project that they've been working on for I heard about when I was 5. I'm almost 33 now. So, those sort of things they have to piggyback. You can't just rely on just the business oligarchs to, lay out the plan for El Paso. And we also got to consider like the technical minds and the engineering minds. We're sitting right there, right next to Fort Bliss. There is no
well,
reason why we have
it's
a
like we're
wealth of
sitting on like the oil guys looking for their oil. This is our energy boom because you have San Antonio and Austin in the top 5, top 10 solar cities in the country. And our solar panels will produce 15 to 20% more electricity, more money in your pocket than Austin and San Antonio. And so we just got to take advantage of it. I mean, if you have solar on your house, you'll get the most energy compared to any other city in the state of Texas. The exact same solar panels on their houses. So
Yeah, and you can run
it's a
your
no-brainer.
AC as cold as you want and feel guilt free. And
Yep.
I think that's something everyone could get behind because it is hot. I'm a PC gamer. I'm
Mhm.
a technologist. I tinker with things. I would love to have a server farm in my house, and I want to run that without breaking my wallet. There's opportunities to encourage small business, and it comes from that. And energy is the root of it. The minute we get that energy independence, people will understand how to take advantage of that to their benefit, and it will, like, you will have a boom on levels that we won't even have enough time to talk about. And I really hope that there are some people out there who are hearing this and kind of give it some thought and really think about the potential it could bring.
Yeah.
And it's always been the potential that drives us forward, right? It's not the reality of it. It's what we can do, and that's ultimately what has made the American mindset of taking a challenge and then being successful regardless of failures. This is one that is just waiting to be gobbled up and captured and played that
It's
to the
easy
side.
now. And so if anyone's listening, either owns a home or wants to buy a home, you can roll it into your home loan. You can, if you own your home, you can finance it directly with your solar company. If you own your home and you own enough of your home, you can do a home equity line of credit, which is even cheaper typically than the financing partners. And so really you can go solar with no money down. And on month one, you're going to pay as much or less what your electric bill would be, but to your financing partner for solar, right? And the idea is on day one, you're making and saving money. And if you have to pay for energy, it might as well be. So if you are listening, you can go, with solar, no money down if you own your home or your
That
business.
opens the doorway to solar heating. If you got a pool and you won't pay for that heating cost, you could solar heat it too.
Yeah,
There's so
cut
many
off the
applications.
gas, cut the gas.
Yep. Well, I guess we'll move towards questions. If anybody's got questions, I don't want to leave the attendees out.
Yeah, if you are online and you want to unmute and ask anything about Eco Paso or Sunrise or any of the issues that we've discussed today, you can always email us as well. Give you guys a second. But if not, thank you, Josh. It's really nice to have you as a board member and to connect the dots between Sunrise Movement and Eco Paso, and the fact that we are very aligned in our missions and a lot of the things that we're doing. Plus, it's nice to see you guys are out in the streets actually rattling cages, which we like to see, whether it's COVID or not, whether we're online or in person. So thank you for representing both sides of the house.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be in this position. I've never felt more excited and confident in the work I'm doing. I became an engineer to instill change, and the only way you're going to make change is exactly what you're seeing on the screen right here. Is action now, not later. We have the potential here in El Paso to do everything we're talking about. We have the talent. We have the resources of UTEP. We have the backing of what's happening at Fort Bliss. We need to move away from more defense type issues, because the true defense that we're going to have to do is for ourselves and the harmony that we're going to we have to place ourselves in with the ecosystem and the planet. The planet will go on, but we are in a very unique position as sentient beings, us as humans, and you know it's a very, very fortunate experience to have as a human being on this planet, in this solar system, in this galaxy, and in this universe. And this time today, we can create that future that we all want. So I just want to close. I'm seeing some people up there in support, so please follow us on social media and all the platforms that you can find us on. We're trying to get everywhere. I want to say thank you for joining us today. I want to say thank you to Eco Paso, all the board members and supporters of Eco Paso as well. We got a lot of work to do, and it's a lot of positive work. So I'll conclude our little session today, and appreciate
Awesome.
being a part of
it. Well, thank you again, Josh. Again, my name is Shelby Ruff. I'm the president of the board of directors with Eco El Paso. We want to thank our sponsors, Solar Smart Living, SSL, here out of El Paso, and they also work in Las Cruces. And then also want to thank Quantum Engineering Consultants and Creosote Collaborative. They've been really behind the scenes helping us win grants that we can give back to the city. They've been helping us support these projects financially, and with some of their project management on the back end as well. So we really, really appreciate our financial sponsors. So check out Solar Smart Living, check out Quantum Engineering Consultants and Creosote Collaborative, both here and created by, they're small businesses created by local El Pasoans. But we will post this video on our Eco El Paso YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, we're posting all these videos usually the same day or next day. And if you have any questions, email us at info@ecoelpaso.org. You can always contact us, and I'll get any of your questions over to Josh. And we look forward to seeing our next speaker later today.
All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, everybody.